Today we're going to talk about 3 reasons why your kicks do not have strength. Number 1 is poor body mechanics. Number 2 is lack of power or use of that power. And number 3 is mental follow-through. Are you kicking like this? Or are you kicking like this? Let's look at the muscles first. Number 1, your muscles, if they have no contraction, they have no energy to actually execute the kick. When you chamber your leg, you create potential energy. Now, we all learned about potential and kinetic energy in school. So just a quick reminder, as you look at this pin, you'll see that when that spring is compressed and then you go to let it go, what happens? It has energy, right? It pops open because it has some potential energy in there. Your muscles naturally want to keep the bones supported and the joints supported, and they want to go back to the original extended position. Let's take a look at another example of potential and kinetic energy. Imagine that this is my nail and this is my hammer. If I swing this hammer from here to here, how much energy did I just create? Not very much, right? But if I take this hammer and I swing it from way up here to down, how much energy did I create? Well, depending on how I swing, obviously. Boom, a lot more energy. Look it, I made the pencil stick into the wood. It was a lot more energy just because the distance that traveled was further. If I chamber my leg a little, I only have a short distance. I just create a little bit of potential energy. But if I chamber that leg back fairly tight, it travels a further distance. But you can even audibly hear the difference in the power just from taking a small chamber to a larger chamber. That is utilizing your muscles to their potential to create energy in your kicks. Let's take that just a little bit further and let's talk about the speed at which things travel. Think back to my hammer when I was swinging it the first time I went really slow. So it didn't have as much impact. I always tell my students in class, think of 2 cars. If you're driving your 2 cars at 2 miles an hour and they crash, how big is the crash? However, if you're driving 2 cars at 50 miles an hour and they crash, how big is the crash? A lot bigger, right? Same thing with your kicks and your speed in your kicks. So you must consider your chamber, but also your speed. Let's look at that tiny chamber. Going fast, going slow. Are you slowing down your kick right before you hit? That could be some of the issue. Number 2, let's look at the big chamber, slow. It only has a certain amount of energy. Let's look at it going fast. That one has a lot more potential and kinetic energy on the impact. Because most people just focus on the extension of the kick, they lose a lot of power. If you want to correct this, film your kick being performed and take a look and see. If you discover that you're not doing a great chamber, I do have a video on how to create some great chambers, and I'll put the link below. It'll also pop up here. After you master the basics on your chamber, then I like to work on increasing some strength. Now, some people like to use ankle weights. I've used those in the past. I do like using my band better, and I have a band that came actually in my I-43 roller. And the reason I like to use the band is because it's going to give you resistance in both directions. For me, that's important because then I don't end up with any muscle imbalances. The slower you go, the more intense it is. Start with the lighter band and then work your way into a heavier band. Remember, as you're doing this exercise, never fully extend all the way in a locked position with your knee. Always keep that little tiny bend in your leg. That way it protects your joints. Make sure you work your left and your right side evenly. Now let's talk about the second half of core body mechanics, which is the rotation of your joints. A lot of students do not complete the rotation of their joints. Let's take a look at this hip rotation. So if I'm coming in for a roundhouse kick and my hip rotation stops here, I haven't fully rotated that over to where I actually have the strength of the joints behind the kick. Let's look at it wrong and then we'll look at it right. Look how my hip is back. Now look how my hip turns over. Now if you're looking from the other side, this is the hip back. This is the hip turned over. Now let's look at a side kick. So when I rotate the joints in a side kick, half rotated, full rotation. Do you see the difference between the two of those? Let's look at it again. Joints not lined up, joints lined up. I have a side kicking video, so if you want a little more tips on the alignment, a little bit more detail on that subject, feel free to check out that video as well. The next thing you're gonna look at when you consider alignment of the bones is you're gonna look at the alignment of the shoulders. The shoulders can really fight against you when it comes to kicking, strength, and power. So if I take those shoulders and leave them here while I'm kicking, they're fighting against that hip rotation. Whereas if I take that shoulder and I turn it with my body, not only does it give me correct mechanics, but it also allows me to put the power of my upper body as well as my lower body into the kick. You need to build a certain amount of base strength before you should start working on increasing your muscle strength. The timing of when you decide to do your strength work is also very, very important. Think of this, it would be like a baseball player going to hit the bat and starting off on fastballs. They probably wouldn't make any progress because it's going too quick, right? So I have a list that I actually use for my students where they can test their skills before they start doing the strength exercises that we have. And I'll link this list below, but I'm going to refer to it so that I don't miss anything important. Number one, are your chambers and extensions full, and are they controlled, and can you go slow and fast doing those extensions? By full extensions, I mean, do you have a full chamber and a full recoil? Not full, full. Number two is, can you balance on one leg and chamber and extend fully? So that would be balancing on one leg without the assistance of holding onto a wall or a bag, chamber and extend. Can you do that on your own? I like to see my students do reps of 30 on each leg before they start working on strength work. Number two, do you have a fully executed pivot and a chamber and a recoil? So in other words, that would be spinning on your standing foot. Now, an intermediate level is when you can start working on strength. Do you have an engaged core and upper body? So let's look at what an engaged core and upper body looks like. Unengaged, core and upper body. Engaged, core and upper body. Using my arms correctly, I'm grabbing with my obliques and pulling back when I kick, and as I recoil. That is an engaged core and upper body. Are you able to do pressing kicks? If you can do a pressing kick, you're probably ready to start doing some strength work. So you ask me, what is a pressing kick? A pressing kick is a really slow kick. 5 counts out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 counts out. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. For sake of time, fast. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I would really do those in real seconds, but you get the idea. That is a pressing kick. That tells you you have enough control in your leg to start working on some strength work. So I'm going to come down on my hands and knees. I'm going to make sure my abs are pulled up and tight, that I'm not sinking or arching my back. Do you see the difference? Pulled up. I'm going to lift my leg up sideways, like as if I'm going to kick. and bring it down. I want to try to keep my weight centered on my hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I would recommend doing reps of 10 to 15 of these, but for sake of time in the video, I'm just going to show 5. Now, you're going to go 1, open and close, out and back, down, up, out, back, down. You can increase that by using your rubber band. So let's look it on our foot and see how it goes. Up, down, up, out, back, down. So I'm going to put my weight on my standing leg. I'm going to point my toe. The first time you do this exercise, you might want to use something to brace yourself. In is easy, but out is hard. Down. I'm going to bend over, hold my band, bring the leg in, contracting my abs, and out. This one is a side-to-side lunge. So I'm going to open my legs up to kind of like a horse stance. And I'm going to lunge down to the center, sideways and sideways. That's like not going all the way down. My knee is only bending as far as my toe. I should feel a stretch maybe underneath here, and I can hold weights. Side and side. So I'm giving you the example of the ball I stole from our kids' classroom, but I would use a medicine ball. Squats on the wall are another great way to build some nice strength in your legs. Let's look at doing those correctly. I like to use a ball. If you have a large ball at home, that's ideal. I'm gonna put this ball on my back and put my back on the ball on the wall. I'm gonna bring my legs out in front of me to where when I sit down, my knees go over my toes, and I'm sitting like I'm sitting in a chair, and then I'm gonna roll up. Now this is too far. See how my butt went below my knees? And again, I'm using my ball, but I would use a medicine ball for this. However, if you only have just any kind of ball, it's gonna give you your right positioning. When I lay down, I wanna make sure the small of my back is into the ground. So look at, see how I'm arched? That's wrong. See I have this gap underneath here? I'm gonna make sure that that's down. A lot of times I'll do that by lifting my legs and rolling my back on the ground to make sure I have the small of my back down. When you bring your head up off the ground, it'll also help you get the small of your back. These are bicycles. We've all probably done these at some point in our life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can move your ball. 7. This is an exercise that is for your obliques. Move your side kicks, your round kicks, your hook kicks, your back kicks, your jump kicks, your spin kicks. A lot of kicks. You're going to use your obliques. And so I like to give my students this exercise. Bring your hand over your head, put your weight here, touch your toe. Bring it in, touch your toe. Now watch. This is wrong. See how there's no obliques working there? This is wrong. This is right. Feel that? Go down and up. Now, bring your leg up as you go down. Don't fall out of it. So you're gonna come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can rest your hands on your elbows. You can put your hands behind your back, or you can lay flat. My preference is to rest up on my elbows. You're gonna put your feet 6 inches above the ground and hold. Open and hold. Together and hold. Little bounces. Open, together, in, out, hold, hold, hold. Now, with my classes, at the intermediate level, I do these for about 3 minutes. If your kicks are still not hitting hard, it is definitely mental at this point. So now you're ready for a little bit of a mental push through. Let's look at a side kick that bounces off the target. I clearly just bounced right off of that target. Now I'm going to hit it with a little push through. Yeah, I kind of pushed it, but then notice my leg never fully extended. Watch. See that, niece? I gave a little push, but I didn't really finish the push through. So how do I finish that push through? Well, number one, you got to talk to yourself. You got to say, I can do this. I'm going to knock this bag down. I've got this. Just going to push through. Create a little bit of speed. Remember we talked about speed when we were talking about the hammer coming down. A hammer that goes faster is not only harder to stop, but it has a lot more energy. So I'm going to back up so that I can feel what it feels like to put a little bit of speed in there. There we go. Now I got a little bit of push through. So the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is to put some speed in there, and then you won't have time to think about slowing down as you get into that target. The next thing is find a coach who's actually going to make sure you're safe and will push you. Number 3 is you can give yourself a positive and a negative consequence to go with it. So negative consequence would be maybe some push-ups. You don't knock the bag over, you get 3 push-ups. You only do it a few times before your arms start getting sore, and then you'll make yourself push through that target. Or if you're positively motivated, if you push the bag over, you get your favorite treat, whatever that may be. Once you've pushed through once or twice, you know how to do it. You just literally have to use your muscles and push through that target. Over the years, I've noticed that once a student learns how to mentally push through, I never really have to revisit it ever again because they know they can do it. So at that point, if you're not pushing through, guess what? You're just being lazy. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope today's video was super helpful. I have linked some resources right below the video of some tools we use, our training checklist, and if you need help with some of your other topics or some other things that you're working on, feel free to comment below and I'll either post a video or give you a link to one that's possibly already made.